Coming up next on the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast.
In our industry, we are our client, yet for some reason we can't articulate their pain points in our marketing in order to say, I can solve this for you because I am you.
From your first dollar to your first million, welcome to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast, presented by ZenMaid. Join your host, Stephanie Pipkin, founder of Serene Clean, as she shares proven tips, tricks, and hard-earned lessons. Whether you're just starting out or ready to scale, get ready to discover how to build your own cleaning empire. Let's roll up our sleeves and dive in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast. I am your host, Stephanie Pipkin of Serene Clean, and today our special guest is Ayman Al-Abdullah, former CEO of AppSumo, and he is now a renowned executive coach for scaling businesses from 7 to 9 figures. And how Ayman and I got connected is actually he is the coach to our friendly neighborhood CEO and my close friend Amar. So welcome, Ayman. Thank you for taking time out of your very full schedule for meeting with me.
Thank you, Stephanie. Really looking forward to being here.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that Amar really mentioned that he admires most in you is your ability to balance all of your responsibilities that you have in your life. And I would love to hear what your thought process is on life balance. And is that like a luxury that you think is only obtainable for more of a CEO role? Because most of our listeners are truly in that startup or transition phase. So I know for myself, life balance was kind of a pipe dream when I started out. Do you feel that way?
I think it's a mentality. I think everyone is one hire away from cutting their problems in half and 2 hires away from a completely different company. And I think that oftentimes early stage entrepreneurs, and I know I've fallen privy to this, we think we got to do everything. We have to do marketing, we have to do sales, we have to do all of the work. And instead, we got to ask ourselves, well, where is the highest leverage for myself? Where can I be spending the majority of my time? And how do I get the other stuff off my plate? For those that don't know me, I was the former CEO of a company called AppSumo. I took them from $3 to $84 million in revenue. And my very first hire was actually an intern from UT Austin, $15 an hour, and was just taking the lower level tasks, the checklist stuff off my plate, which allowed me to go and do more sales. And so on day one, I didn't have balance. But over time, as I slowly cleared my calendar and cleared my plate, I was able to open up more and more calendar to the point where I was working way less at 80 million than I was at 8.
Mm-hmm. So really it was just that slow delegation process and seeing what you could get off your plate to open up. And, most of our listeners are owner operators or have come from that and have slowly, gotten away from the field or are constantly getting pulled back in. So, I'm sure, I guess I'd be loving to hear the typical product or service industry that your clients are in. Is it service? Is it product? Is obviously software as a service for Amar? Because there's some particular challenges I find in our industry that would be really interesting to get your thoughts on. So who do you serve currently?
Yeah, I serve everyone from SaaS companies like Amar's to service providers such as fractional CFO firms, to law firms, to e-commerce businesses and CPG companies. So like a lot of the nice snacks and goods that are sitting in your pantry. And a lot of them, they actually have very repeatable systems and frameworks. And so I totally get it when it comes to service-based businesses like the owner-operator businesses that ZenMaid services. It has to start with going, well, do I want to both focus on marketing and sales as well as providing the service? Or do I want to get one part of the business off of my plate? So maybe I'm hiring a quote unquote GM that's managing the daily cleanings. So that way I can focus on the sales and marketing. And then eventually I can hire someone like a VP of revenue that's going to help me go and make sure I have enough leads. And so we can systematically start to separate ourselves over time. But yeah, 100% with service-based businesses, there is a huge people element of that. And until we can get that off our plate, of course, we can't clear up the calendar.
Mm-hmm. I had seen that you kind of, in your mind, break up business into 3 phases: startup, scale up, and then grow up. And that usually we're not hiring in that startup phase. And so I guess, what is your definition of a startup? Is it truly founder or do you make that a little bit broader?
So my definition of a startup is a company that's still trying to find product market fit. So they don't know who they serve, they don't know what they sell, and they don't know how to get customers. And so when they're still stuck in those 3 questions, who do I serve, what do I sell, and how do I get customers, that tends to be the startup. For most businesses, Service-based businesses, that tends to be under 500,000. But if you're north of 500,000, you're approaching $1 million a year in revenue as a service-based business. You're now starting to get away from the startup phase because you as the founder are now the limiting factor for growth. You've figured out who you sell to. You have more customers than you know what to do with. And chances are your calendar is super full. You're probably working 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And the only way you can grow is by working more. And so that's when we're actually having to now graduate to phase two, which is scale up, which is now no longer about company creation, no longer about product creation, but rather about company creation.
I was thinking about the concept of another thing that Amar had mentioned that he really loves about his conversations with you is he walks away, or rather, he comes to the conversation thinking he's got a million problems. And he walks away from your conversation saying, I know exactly what I need to do. It's one problem, and you kind of bringing that focus for him is really appreciated. And honestly, I feel like the one problem in our particular industry is the one problem that would solve every other problem for us is staffing and team, because the cleaning industry, Alex Hormozi says this isn't a demand problem at all. There is such a demand in our industry. My business would be 3 times the size if I could get, the staffing. It's like we get stuck. Like we've been at, 1.4 million now and kind of am stagnant there for a little bit. And it's like the staffing part is so hard. And I was thinking, I've just been consuming a lot of your content, so I'm a little bit all over the place, but it's just been really interesting to think about you saying, you envision the future being, instead of just a bunch of W-2 employees, kind of this one-of-one mentality. And the rock stars in my company that are cleaning techs, they truly are rock stars. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, why would they want to do this? How do I get rock stars and this one-of-one mentality in place in such a, I guess, standardized role as a cleaning technician? Because if I could have a million of my rock stars, I would, that would solve everything.
100%. Well, Stephanie, I love the phrasing. I'm stuck at 1.4 million. I'm sure a lot of your listeners right now would wish they would be stuck at 1.4. But, it's funny. Like once you've gone beyond $1 million business, you are actually no longer a cleaning business. You are a recruiting, training, and retaining business. And so your actual customer is no longer the customers of the cleaners. It's actually your employees. And so your star cleaning techs, that's actually your core customer. And so what you're selling is what your company can provide over the myriad of other potential opportunities for them, including starting their own company. And so the reason that Google did such a great job of attracting all these engineers is like, we now have these amazing offices and we have barber shops on staff and we handle your dry cleaning and like we let you do 20% of your time to work on your stuff. And that's where they were able to attract all these tier 1 engineers. So how was I, when I was scaling AppSumo, able to pull engineers away from Google? Was by selling them something Google couldn't do, which is this is a boot camp for entrepreneurship. This is an opportunity for you to see 1,000 SaaS companies launch. And when you're ready to go and become an entrepreneur, you'll have a better data set than if you just go and work on Google Drive, which is one product. And so you have to figure out, like, what are we doing that's unique to us that allows us to retain our employees over anyone else and wants them to stick around for the long term. So that's how at AppSumo, number one, we won Best Place to Work in 2021 in Austin. Number two, we retained our average employee for 7-8 years in tech, where the average turnover is 18 months. And it was because we were giving individuals a unique path to grow within the company. And it only came from us deeply understanding, first and foremost, what our employees wanted.
That makes a lot of sense. And just, I think that's why I've done, I guess, well in that manner of establishing that really strong culture of my ideal employee is most likely, a parent who is primary parent. They need flexibility that can't be offered elsewhere. And, just having a lot of turning it almost into a career. And so, I've actually been kind of working on a rebranding project and really with the ultimate approach of positioning us as we're the best place to work. And that means our employees take care of our clients because me having a great employee, it solves everything else, because then the service is great. They serve our clients really well. So I really have been thinking in that manner of like, okay, this is about the cleaners. Like, it's never going to be, I mean, it's not about the clients, but that takes care of everything from there. And I guess knowing that a lot of our listeners, they're not at a place where they can even afford to do that. So in their mind listening, I'm sure they're thinking, well, that's great, Stephanie, but how do I do that at the small level? How do I attract the people that are going to solve these problems for me? Like, it's very difficult at a small level, is it not?
Well, I mean, as I mentioned, my first hire was at $15 an hour intern. And so, yeah, sometimes we do have to start either fractionally or at a lower hourly rate in order to slowly chip away. But I love what you mentioned, which is you're actually selling that flexibility for that working parent. And I guarantee you, there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of working parents working in jobs that have no flexibility. They're like, you know what? I wish I could be home for when my kids are home. And they would much rather be working for you than where they're currently working. And so the more that we're able to actually go out and attract those individuals, they're going to be like, thank you so much. This is a dream job for me compared to my previous job, which was inflexible, because it allows me to now better serve my family, which is one of my key priorities. So in regards to your question, for those that are just starting out, yeah, unfortunately, it is tough. You know, you're kind of going to need to slowly, systematically chip away at it. So the only reason I was able to hire eventually multi-six-figure engineers was because I started with a $15 an hour intern. So I'll give you an example. That $15 an hour intern cleared up 5 hours for me on my week. That may not seem like a lot, but that allowed me to close one extra deal. So 5 hours, if you can clear 5 hours on your week, could that end up allowing you to go and recruit another cleaning tech? Could that allow you to go and find another commercial contract? Something that'll actually end up increasing the revenue for you. And then with that extra revenue, you take that profit and then figure out how can we clear up another 5 hours. And against eventually over time, there's a flywheel that builds where it starts cheap. It was $150 a week for me that I was manually Venmoing out of my own pocket. And then eventually gets to the point where we're having a $40 million a year payroll.
Oh, that's juicy. To even hear that, that's pretty amazing. I love that. And also just, I think we all get very impatient because it's very painstaking. It's really hard not to go from, failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm when it comes to staffing, because I'm a very enthusiastic person, and it takes a lot to get me down. But yes, it's just, hiring, and then they leave and they leave and they leave. Oh. And so, when you butt against a stubborn problem like that, how do you maintain your enthusiasm for just attacking the problem and actually solving it when you know that this problem is going to be the problem for you?
Totally. I think that we all follow that like person on Instagram that they're like soft launching a new relationship like every week, and it's like give it a few months, right? Like let's wait before we post.
Yeah, this is my soulmate, and they're like, you just posted that like 3 months ago.
It's like, what happened to the other guy, And so I think that oftentimes as CEOs we get that same feeling with new employees, and what we'll do is we'll end up soft launching like this person's going to change the world, and they leave us. And then we're like, oh, is it me? Like, is there something wrong with my company? And it's like, no, sometimes we got to go on a couple dates before we get committed. And so my recommendation, I love hiring on a fractional basis. I'm only going to hire you for maybe one job, maybe a couple hours a week. And we're going to go on a couple dates. We're going to test each other out. Do you like cleaning? Do I like you? And then from there, we can graduate. Hey, this is actually pretty good. Would you be interested in working part-time? And then eventually, would you be interested in working full-time? And we slowly ramp up over time versus announcing to the company, this is the person that's going to save us, and announcing. And now we invest all of this effort into this individual, and we end up realizing like, actually, this was not a good use of our time. So for us, we used to have very clear like 2-week trials. So for a new salesperson, close 2 deals in 2 weeks. For a new engineer, find 10 bugs in 10 days. So like, what would be the cleaning tech equivalent? Maybe they can shadow you for 2 cleanings and go, did I enjoy working with them? Did they have the same standard that I have? You'll immediately very quickly see, was this person worth investing and pouring into? And if it's not a good fit, we didn't invest too much into them. And it's okay if they leave, or it's okay if we let them go. But I think that's the big mistake that a lot of CEOs make, is they immediately jump right into marriage. And we should probably go on a couple dates first.
That's a really good analogy. I love that. And I think it can be applied in a lot of areas, most likely, where we just, we jump in head first, we get over enthusiastic, overcommit, and then burn our little hearts out because of it. So
I've been there. Look, I get it. I've made those mistakes.
Oh yeah, and those ones are the most painful ones looking back, but I find you learn the most from the burning, if you will. So, another thing that I love is that you focus in kind of your teachings just on, speaking of marriage, being married to your client. And by that, you mean, I assume you know them as if they were your spouse. And what's really interesting about our industry in specific is that I find that most owners in our industry, they're not married to their client. They are their client. Like, meaning I know exactly who I'm selling to because I'm that person. Okay, when you're looking at residential cleaning, for example, it's very specific. Usually, this is a female-led industry for the most part. Most owners are females, are mothers, busy, overwhelmed, all of these things. So it comes so easily. I'm not a mother yet. When I opened, I was 22 years old, right? I didn't have any of these things, but I could understand the stress and psychosis that having unannounced guests came in, because all of a sudden all the shame of the household is now on me. So it's a very female specific feeling. I mean, at least this is what I think. So I mean, maybe you think otherwise, but, what I'm trying to say is, though, it's baffling to me how in our industry, we are our client, yet for some reason we can't articulate their pain points in our marketing in order to say, I can solve this for you because I am you. And your focus on the CEO and the founder being the face of the company and how that allows you to connect. So can you please expound on this, and why should we be the face of our companies in this manner?
So maybe if you could expand that for me a little bit. Are you saying that some of the owner operators, they're not doing a good enough job of marketing their services or explaining the value of the services? Like, where do you feel like the disconnect is?
The disconnect, I think, is that when you go on the average cleaning company's website, like every single one I go onto, it is the most generic. First off, stock images of cleaners and cleaning products. Know them. They're not even on the website, or it's generic. We're high quality cleaning. Hire us. And it just doesn't even speak at all to the needs and the pain points. And so I would love to hear, why is this so important that we not only understand them, but then explain that understanding in our marketing?
Well, I mean, if you go to my website, it's terrible.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's awful. It's absolutely terrible.
It's bad.
No, it's really bad. And the reason being is because that's not the bottleneck in my business, right? No one's going to my website and converting. And so the question I have for these owner operators is, first of all, maybe they have more than enough business and they're actually texting them directly rather than going through the website. And so I'd be curious, like, where exactly is the bottleneck? Or maybe that's not even a need. Are you noticing that people are showing up to their website and not saying yes or not converting? Are they looking for Google reviews, for an example? Like, why do you feel like the website is actually going to be what's going to convert them?
I think because a lot of time, well, for us or our industry, most leads, once you get to a certain size, are coming from Google. They're Googling for a cleaning service, a local service, and they're coming to the website and they are bouncing. They're for some reason not filling out that quote request form, which is truly our biggest lead mechanism, when it comes to like scaling. So it just seems that, it's just this generic.
This is important then. Yeah, this is really important. So if that's the case, if people are coming to us from Google and they're showing up on our website and then bouncing, because to your point, we're using stock imagery, we don't have a clear CTA, call to action, then 100%, that's where we should be spending our time. The best way to analyze that is do we have, if we look at our traffic, what's the percentage of our bounce rates? So if we have 99% of our people bouncing, that means there was a high intent. They came to us from Google. They wanted a cleaning. They came to our website and they didn't see good reviews. They didn't see clear pictures. They didn't see a photo of us. They didn't see some testimonials. And more importantly, they didn't see a book and now link. So we just didn't make it easier. And so an afternoon now with ChatGPT, we don't even need to be the one writing the copy. Literally can just speak to text and it'll whip out something that's 95% as good as what a copywriter will. Then we'll maybe take some decent imagery, even on an iPhone is better than most cinematography photos. take some decent photos, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. So yeah, an afternoon alone could end up potentially doubling an individual's business if that's the true bottleneck.
That makes sense. Yeah. For you, in your own personal journey, when it comes to like being the face of your company and things like that, since you just said like, okay, my website's terrible, obviously that's not where you're getting your clients for coaching, at least, in your businesses or the businesses that you have been, leadership roles in, did you introduce that concept then of like face of company?
I think every company is going to be different. So some companies, they're definitely going to have a face of the company. So for us at AppSumo, I was lucky enough that we had a very famous founder, Noah Kagan. And so he was the face of the company, which allowed me to focusing on the company. I think that there's only a handful of companies that actually need a true face. So service-based businesses, they probably need a face. People want to know, who are they inviting into their home? It's important. Like, do I trust this individual? Am I going to trust them? Can I leave and know that they're going to be taking care of my house? For tech companies, they don't need a face. They probably don't need a face until they're at, honestly, 50 million or 100 million, because at that point, you need a celebrity in order to attract top level talent. But for cleaning service companies specifically, they not only need to know who the owner operator is, but they also need to know like what makes you special about the cleaning techs that you choose. What's the vetting process? What's the training process? What's the 14-point quality control checkpoint? You're ensuring that there's a standardized cleaning checklist that's happening. So that way you're getting consistency, even if you're getting someone brand new to come to clean your house. And so the more that you can lean into those, the easier it will be for people to feel connected to the business. And as a result, trust it.
That makes sense. It's really good advice specific to our industry, because it is a big thing to have people trust you. And I think we kind of take it for granted, and people have gotten burned very badly, by cleaners before. So it's right that they're gun shy. And I remember you talking about in one interview that I was watching, I'm sure you talked about this many times, is basically like, what do we uniquely have the ability to solve for our clients, right? Or in the world, if you will. And just having that sense of purpose. I think that this is where, we may get issues or struggle answering that, because it is such a basic, the dirty labor of cleaning. It's like, well, how do we differentiate ourselves in this industry? I mean, I know my theories and how we've attempted to do this, in everything outside of the cleaning. But is there anything else that comes to mind for you of how do you differentiate yourself in such a highly competitive, low entry, frankly, low skill type of work?
Yeah. I mean, I've hired several cleaning techs in the past, and the ones that I stick with for years, they just hate dirt more than I do. Like they are moving furniture, they're getting deep in there, and it's like, you really don't need to do all that. They're like, no, I will not leave, because like they will lose sleep at night knowing that there's a dust bunny hiding behind the couch. And so you're right, in an industry that's highly commoditized, the only thing that we can really separate from us is the standard that we bring to our cleaning. And the individual, I have a quote where it's, be so good that nobody refers you. And I know this because when I lived in Austin, I referred my cleaning lady to everybody, and then she got too busy for me. So I'm like, now in North Carolina, I refer my cleaning lady to nobody. I'm like, no, I don't have anyone. I'm sorry, because I do not want the same thing to happen. But that's the ultimate goal, is be so good that nobody refers you. And so if you have that higher standard where they come in, they know they can trust you. They know that your cleaning is going to be better than anyone else. And by the way, this doesn't have to just be you. Anyone that you hire, you have that minimum standard, and make sure that they hate dirt as much as you do. When you can do that, that's the ultimate goal. I come home to a spotless kitchen. I come home to a clean house. I feel like the home is brand new again. That to me is how you elevate and separate from an industry that's been highly commoditized.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I'd love to just kind of switch gears and looking into what you do now with CEOs. And obviously, again, our audience is not at that level yet, but definitely aspire to be that way. And, being a CEO versus a startup or a founder, like those are two different roles. One, how do you differentiate those two things? Because a founder could turn into a CEO, but a CEO isn't always the founder. So Can you explain what that transition period looks like?
Yeah, this is a great question. So to me, the founder discovers flight. They're the one that actually creates the business. So this is the 0 to 1. They're the ones that are the visionary. They're thinking about innovation. They're putting together the branding, the packaging, the offer. They're finding the first handful of customers. I mean, they're essentially creating life in that regard. The founder is ensuring that when they're discovering flight, the CEO will now come in at around 1 million and take it to 100 million and beyond. And so they're no longer focused on product creation. They're focused on company creation. And the founder can become the CEO, but it's a completely different skill set because the founder is often focused on innovation. The CEO is focused on optimization. And that tends to be a trap that a lot of founders get into, is they think that growth happens by creating new product lines, new services, new businesses, and they're always going back to creation mode rather than, hey, I have something that works. How do I optimize and get 10% more from 3 areas of the business, which results in 30% year-over-year growth? That's how we avoid the stagnation. And so that founder versus CEO dynamic, they're 2 very different roles. We can wear both hats. We have to understand the difference between the 2 in order to get things to the next level.
Okay. If you have an industry where you service multiple different types of niches, for example, and I'm specifically referencing residential, commercial, vacation rental, that's the cleaning industry, right? And they all are different like that. I find that things tend to fall apart a lot of times when companies, like looking at other people that I've spoken to, they can get only so far and then it starts to fall apart, whether that be from systems or, they have these different kind of niches and they're trying to maybe cater to more than they should. Do you typically think it's best to literally only serve one? Or if they're close enough of this is all cleaning, it's just somewhat different? Like, do you think that is wise as we grow? Or is that something that, no, focus on one, when you guys get bigger, then you can kind of differentiate?
Yeah, this is actually one of the biggest mistakes that I made as a CEO. So when we stepped in on AppSumo, we were serving everybody. We were doing Solopreneur Sally. We were doing Enterprise Ethan. Our marketing was to everybody. We were saying, hey, quit your 9 to 5 and use this to scale your business. And what we were realizing, it was really landing to no one. I don't know if you remember that scene in The Notebook where Noah's talking to Allie and he's like, I wrote to you every day. And then imagine if Allie went home and looked at the notebook, looked at all the notes, looked at the letters, and at the top it said, to whom it may concern. Like that tends to be actually what a lot of marketing is. It's written to whom it may concern. And so when we analyzed our customer data, we realized there was one customer segment that was purchasing from us significantly more than the other customer segments. And that was marketing agencies. And we gave that individual an avatar. It was actually marketing agency Matt. And all of a sudden, all of our, number one, our products changed. So instead of serving everyone, we started doing multi-user licensing, white labeling. We made it easier for agencies to purchase our software to be able to service their clients. Our marketing changed to be servicing marketing agency Matt. And almost overnight, our customer lifetime value tripled. And all things being equal, our revenue tripled. And so the mistake that we were making was we were trying to serve everybody. And as a result, we were serving nobody. Our marketing wasn't really landing. Our messaging wasn't really landing. Our product wasn't best in class. The second we focused on one is the second we started seeing some pretty substantial growth in the business. And then more importantly, we were worried we were going to lose Solopreneur Sally and Enterprise Ethan. Ironically, those markets grew as well because they were benefiting. It was like trickle down effect that happened as a result of us closing better deals to service this individual. And so I'm not saying no, we never want to turn down business, but we go back to that website example. If your true core customer is commercial, lean into that. If it's Airbnb, we are the best Airbnb cleaning service company in the tri-state area. That's it. When people think, oh, I bought an Airbnb, who should I hire? You should hire this company. And so when you do that, when you really lean into that, that's how you're really able to separate from your competitors.
Well, I have a dilemma then because we're literally darn near 50% residential commercial from a revenue base. And so this is where I'm struggling with this whole rebranding of like, How do I talk to both equally?
Well, I'd ask you, of those two, while they're 50-50 in terms of revenue, are they 50-50 in terms of effort?
In different ways. Commercial has they each have their own challenges. The pickup of residential, meaning onboarding and all of that. Residential, I could get you today and get you in tomorrow, right? Like it's very fast where that sales process, well, everything with commercial, it's just so much more onboarding work. But once it's set, not forget, but it's just a lot easier and you're not dealing with the emotions of a house. So, I like them both, but they both have their challenges.
I mean, that's one of my principles is really focusing on one. And I'm not saying you have to say no to one or the other overnight. And obviously, like it's with 50% of your revenue, we definitely don't want to say no to one overnight. But there's probably one of those two where you're like, I could be the best in the world at this. And I feel like if you were to really lean into that, the growth of that side of the business would far outpace where you're feeling right now, where maybe you're potentially churning as much as you're gaining.
That's really interesting because when I think of like scaling, it's easiest to do it with residential from a number of clients perspective. From revenue jumps though, it's commercial because you get a big boy, boom, you're up. They're just harder to manage sometimes because of time of day, things like that. So yeah, I've definitely been kind of grappling with that.
Yeah, I mean, commercial may be one of those where, it's a little harder. It requires a little bit more upfront, but maybe they stick around longer.
Yes. Sticky. It's sticky.
The stickiness, the consistency, the schedule, figuring that out. And I know there's an element there where we need to figure out how are we going to layer that in with the flexibility that you sell to your employees, your cleaning techs. But I think figuring that out, I think it'll just help you from a strategic standpoint going, well, this is how we get to 2 million and beyond.
Definitely. That makes sense. Thank you. That's really interesting. So now going to, back to this whole transitioning to CEO, from the founder, because that's truly most likely what our listeners are going to go through, or they're going to hit that point. What are some of the biggest bottlenecks, traits, problems that we need to grapple with when we hit that transitionary period where you're like, yep, this is what's coming at you. You're about to hit this.
The biggest, hardest transition is not feeling like you need to jump back in. So it's kind of like raising a kid, where if you're immediately helicopter parenting and jumping in and you're not letting the kid grow, it's very difficult for the individual to be self-sustaining. And so what we want to do is we want to have proper touch points and double check the work. We don't want to do the work for them. And so that's one of the biggest transitions. I'll give you an example. She came in as a copywriter. Eventually, she wanted to grow and transition into a marketing manager. And we hired a copywriter underneath her. And she was a brilliant, incredible copywriter, but she found herself constantly jumping in and rewriting the copy. And they go, if you never let this new copywriter actually go through the reps, they're never going to get to the point where they're going to take things to the next level. And so instead of you walking around with a black pen, I want you to walk around with a red pen. And so over a couple cycles, eventually got to the point where she was using the red pen less and less. And it eventually got to the point where she was just approving the copy on the final moment. And so when you're really good at what you do, it's so tempting to just jump in and go, it's going to be so much easier for me to just go in and do it myself. Let me just go do that cleaning myself. Let me just go write this email myself. And instead, practice patience. Recognize your transition to a coaching moment and know it's going to take a little more time putting that work up front. But for her, it got to the point where she was now, 4 or 5 years, this individual is still writing copy for AppSumo. So, it's gotten to the point where she's put in maybe 4 or 5 months of training to benefit for 4 or 5 years after that.
I see. Well, you were making this transition as you grew AppSumo. You were already the CEO, I guess, but do you see any of those constraints that you had to kind of work through? I'm sure you had coaching, you've used coaches or you use coaches. Is that how you had those reflection points of I'm the stopgap here, I'm the one causing the problem? Like, how did you work through those situations when you were the problem?
My philosophy is the CEO should be the laziest person in the company.
Why do you say that?
Because if you're doing work, you're not doing your job as a CEO. And so you have to constantly go, why is this on my desk? Why am I doing this work? And so if you don't have that mentality of like, I need to be the laziest person at the company, then it becomes really easy to do the opposite, which is I am the hardest working person at the company, which means I'm going to be doing everything. And so I think it needs to start with a mentality. The mentality is that I am running the company. I am not the company. And as a result, you're constantly need to think about what software can I use? Obviously, ZenMaid's a huge component of that, where it's like I'm no longer texting back and forth with clients to coordinate scheduling. Number two, hiring the right cleaning techs in order to help manage the workload. Number three, automating marketing, getting to the point where leads are coming in. Then you can focus on how am I solving the problems 2-3 years from now? How am I thinking about getting more cleaning techs? How am I training the next generation of managers? What is the next phase of marketing? Strategic questions. Am I going to go commercial or residential? If so, what does the rebrand need to look like? You're operating 2 to 3 quarters ahead of the business rather than what needs to happen tomorrow.
I think that's so hard, especially if you are a founder and coming from the chaos, if you will, of it just feels like day to day. So really thinking out, and even I've seen that in the way Amar discusses, and that I've seen that shift just in the past year of him thinking like much more longer term of like, what is the 10-year plan? And for me, like this was a side hustle that like it was supposed to be just be a side job. So it was really hard for me to like, it's very difficult for me to think several years in the future, because this was never even like the vision in the first place. So it's very fly by the seat of my pants and oh, look, here we are now. So do you have any suggestions for thinking more long-term and not that, well, I'm just trying to make sure the business survives, like that mentality?
Well, 100. I mean, you have to take things in stages. So step one is let's make sure the day-to-day is handled first before we think about long-term. 100%. There's no reason for us to think 2-3 quarters ahead if we're worried about making this month's numbers. But part of that is figuring out how are we creating the systems, the people, the processes in place so we know if I went on vacation for 2 weeks, the business would be okay. With that space, then we can start to think more long-term.
I see. That makes sense. Yeah. I guess when making decisions on things like hiring or which department to feed the beast first when they all are screaming at you, is it just who's screaming the loudest? Meaning like I need resources in every single area. How do you make decisions? Like where do we feed first?
So it's always focused on where are we getting the most ROI? Because if you ask the team, they're going to want to hire a million individuals. And as a result, we may end up having a team that's twice the size and have half the profit. And that creates a doom loop where we become less profitable. We can hire less people. And as a result, we end up having just less resources to go around. Instead, what we need to do is analyze, well, what's the one hire that's going to maximize our likelihood of increasing revenue and profitability for the business? And we're always needing to think about that. So the way I do it is with a framework called impact versus ease. And so what if we were to stack rank all the potential roles, investments, software, what has the highest impact on the company? So that's revenue and profitability. And then is the easiest to implement. And so if we're looking for things that are 5 and 5, so 10 out of 10 ideas, when we have those two, that's how we're able to take things to the next level. And the way I like to roll this out is a test and invest framework. So I'll give you an example. At AppSumo, we were exploring rolling out an affiliate program. And so the best way for us to do that is get software and create a big marketing campaign. But instead, we're like, why don't we just send a quick email and go, hey, for the month of October, if you send us any customers, we'll PayPal you $10 once they've made their first purchase. And I was literally with a spreadsheet, manually PayPaling individuals. And our test was, could we get our top 100 refers to send us more customers? And the hypothesis proved true. We used that profit to then invest in software. Today, affiliates drives multiple 8 figures in revenue to AppSumo. And so we're always needing to analyze, like your team may have 100 different ideas. I know at AppSumo, people are like, oh, we need 401k with matching, and we want to work a 4-day work week. And they have like a million ideas, but it's like, do these ideas actually move the needle? It's your job and your responsibility as a CEO to stack rank these ideas based on the impact of the team. Because when you have the impact, then you can invest those profits into funding the rest of those ideas.
That's definitely been one of my biggest challenges is focus as a company, focus as a leader, because unfortunately I'm, what is Amar, the CEO seagull. Like I come in with all of these ideas and like, cause we're like the same person, both, very ADHD, and it's like all of these great ideas. And I have overwhelmed my management team so many, there's like, Stephanie, we haven't finished this. So it's like, I'm the problem. It's me. And so this year we've definitely been really focusing on focus, as silly as that sounds.
No,
of like,
sure.
no, we can't work on this. And I think, I guess to wrap up our conversation and be cognizant of your time, one of the issues I'm seeing is all of this because of the internet, because there's so many wonderful resources and AI and tools and trends, as you've called them. The noise is absolutely overwhelming when everything seems like a good idea and you have all of these people yelling at you what a good idea from the outside, if you will, as well as people who want to make money off of you, specifically. Okay, coaching, like that is a huge topic in our industry. I'm sure it is in every industry, where which coach should I use? Which program do you use? Like blah, blah, blah. Like I see that conversation in the Facebook groups literally every day. And then other people saying, no, like this is a scam. Like all you need is the Google, you got Google, you don't need a coach. Like, what are you doing? So, obviously you are a coach and a very high level coach. So how do you help people make decisions with discernment, or what advice do you have for people who are looking at different ideas outside of coaching, but then specifically that as well?
This is a great question. So, going back to the focus that Amar was talking about earlier, to me, there's always only one bottleneck in the business. There's always only one thing that's preventing growth. And you can use a decision tree. It's either sales or delivery. And so you either don't have enough leads or you can't service the leads because we don't have enough cleaning techs. Once we figured out which one of those two, we ignore that half of the company. So let's say our bottleneck is we're churning cleaning techs. Then we need to dive deeper. Is it because we don't have enough people applying, or are we losing individuals in the first 90 days? Oh, we have plenty of people applying, but then they churn out in the first 90 days. Perfect. How do we fix the 90-day onboarding in order to increase retention? I'm going to ignore all the noise. I'm going to ignore AI. I'm going to ignore marketing. I'm going to ignore coaching. I'm going to ignore everything else. And for the next 6 months or 3 months or 1 month, we're just going to fix 90-day onboarding to fix the supply problem, because we can't grow the business if we keep churning cleaning techs. If we fix that, then we can worry about the next thing. Well, now we have a bunch of cleaning techs with an empty calendar. Perfect. Let's go to sales. What's the issue? Oh, people are not filling out the form on the website. Let's fix the website. Done. And so it's this responsibility as a CEO. You're kind of like screaming from the rowboat, left, right, right. And your team is going, Stephanie, focus. And you're like, well, zoom out. We're actually going straight. So that's the responsibility of the CEO.
And to iterate on that I love that you made that analogy and that it feels like it just doesn't stop. But I've described it as the pendulum swing. It's literally either cleaners or clients. And when one is, it's like we just keep going back and forth. And sometimes my managers are like, when is it going to stop? And I'm like, never. This is our business.
100%. We are in a rowboat. We're going left, right. Cleaners are clients. Cleaners are clients. And here's the beautiful thing. If the pendulum is swinging, that means the boat is going straight. Mm-hmm. It's when it's not swinging that there's a major problem.
Yeah. Because it means that you solved that issue. And, if it's not going
or
anywhere.
Or you've never solved the issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you've never solved that issue and you're stuck on cleaners and you're staying there forever. And as a result, we can never go back to clients.
Yeah, that's a wonderful. They need to make like an animation out of what you just said with the rowboat. And as for coaching, speak to that, please.
Yeah, I'm in a beautiful position where I get to work with the clients that I get to work with, like Amar, some of the best CEOs in the world. I get to hand select the clients that I work with, and it's been phenomenal. It's an opportunity for me to really give back. It's one of the reasons I was able to grow AppSumo was because of the coaches before me. And so this is my opportunity to give back to the next generation of entrepreneurs and really see the ripple effects that are happening as a result of incredible companies like ZenMaid. As you mentioned, you've seen the transformation in Amar. I've seen the transformation in Amar. And, even just like rolling out incredible industry leading features like the SOS feature that he mentioned, I know. To me, it's phenomenal. And so like the more that you can, really serve his community, to me, like that's where I get a lot of my excitement and pride, is seeing those ripple effects happening across all of these industries.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, I mean, I have been a customer of Amar. I am Amar's customer for 6 years now. I had him, before I even opened Serene Clean, I had ZenMaid set up. And so it's really very cool to have come from this outside perspective. I was just a customer, now to be involved in the company in this manner and see the inner workings and it evolve. And it's a good company, and it wants to do good and serve. And I'm sure for you that the power of that means that, you kind of get to soak in that goodness in all of these different areas because of all of your clients. It's really cool. That's just like my favorite part of what I do is being a great boss. Like, that's where I get all my joy and pride, actually. And the cleaning's great. And we also give a lot to our community, but it's like, at the end of the day, I just want to be a place they've never worked at before. And that's where I get like that joy and that pride, and kind of is my North Star. So it sounds like for you, the North Star truly is like making that impact.
100%. I mean, just working with individuals like Amar and just seeing how much he really cares about his clients and the maids that he's serving, and helping them really create an incredible life for themselves. Like, I see how passionate he is about the clients that he serves. And like, this is truly like his life's work. And so seeing him just elevate as CEO, I mean, to me, it's my greatest joy.
Well, thank you. I mean, this has been amazing. I appreciate your time. Where can everybody find you if they want to follow you? Where are you active on socials?
Mostly on X, so like Twitter. That's like where I post the majority of my content, but sometimes I'll cross post on LinkedIn reluctantly. So you can find me on either one of those platforms.
But not your website.
Definitely not the website, no.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. This has been a joy, and I hope that we could maybe talk again in the future.
Likewise, Stephanie. This is great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Everybody else, hit that subscribe, hit that like, and I'll see you in the next episode of Filthy Rich Cleaners. Bye-bye.